The modern world is built on a single powerful promise, the promise of healing. You go to therapy to heal your trauma, to a workshop to heal your inner child, to a retreat to heal your soul. The goal is always the same, to fix the broken individual, to make you whole, to make you happy. This entire project, from its most sophisticated clinical practice to its most saccharine New Age seminar, is founded on a profound and catastrophic error. It is a project built on a lie. The lie is that healing is for you. To understand the scale of this deception, we have to return to the source of the word itself. The word is Therapeia. Today, we hear therapy and think of a sanitized office, a compassionate listener, a journey of self-discovery. But in the ancient world, Therapeia meant something else entirely. In its oldest and most potent sense, it did not mean caring for the self. It meant caring for the divine, Therapeia theon, caring for the gods. It was the fundamental duty of humanity not to fix itself, but to attend to the sacred, to serve the gods, to do what was necessary, to ensure the divine was honored and kept alive in the world. The relationship was not about what the gods could do for us, but about what we were required to do for them. Today, this idea is so alien it borders on the insane, and the story of how that sacred duty was inverted, how it was twisted from a selfless service into the selfish project of the modern ego, is the secret history of our spiritual sickness. It is the story of how we ensured we would never be whole, precisely by making wholeness our ultimate goal. It began, as so many of our modern maladies do, with a seemingly reasonable thought. The thought came from Plato, he argued, with the cool, enlightened rationality that would come to define the West, that caring for the gods was absurd. Why would humans need to care for beings so much greater than themselves? What could we possibly offer them? The gods need nothing, therefore, Therapeia theon is a useless, even ridiculous, gesture. With this single, logical maneuver, a nail was hammered into the coffin of our relationship with the sacred. The focus shifted, subtly at first, then completely. The divine no longer needed our care. Its only remaining purpose was to care for us. The entire orientation of Western consciousness was inverted. We were no longer servants of the sacred, but its demanding customers. And what happens when you stop tending a garden? It dies. What happens when you stop listening to a voice? It falls silent. In the centuries that followed Plato, a strange phenomenon was reported across the ancient world. Plutarch, a priest at the temple of Apollo, noted how the great oracles, which once spoke with 1,000 voices, were now completely finished, like springs that have run dry. A great drought of prophecy was covering the land. The gods were no longer speaking. 2 centuries later, another writer described how the earth had swallowed the oracle sites back into her depths. The famous last oracle given at Delphi announced it with simple dignity. He no longer has a speaking spring. Even the talking water has come to an end. The convenient narrative is that this was progress, but it was a catastrophe. The sacred did not abandon us. We drove it into silence with the drone of our own incessant thinking. We became so fascinated with our own ideas about the divine that we left no space for the divine to speak for itself. We replaced the terrifying, living reality with our own safe, intellectual substitutes, and the reality, starved of attention, withdrew. This was not an evolution. It was the beginning of a profound cultural sickness, a forgetting so deep that we have spent the next 2,000 years devising ever more elaborate ways to deny that anything was ever lost. And so we arrive at the modern age, the age of you. Everywhere you look, the legacy of that Platonic inversion is absolute. Rationality, spirituality, therapy. The truth is very simple. They're all about me and me and me. The modern spiritual marketplace is an endless buffet of techniques for self-improvement. We seek to find the gods inside us, to tame the divine archetypes, to harness their power to make us happier, more fulfilled, more successful. The divine, if it exists at all, is now a resource. It is a tool for our own personal therapy. God forbid therapy should be for the gods. To justify this monumental selfishness, we invented our most cherished myth, the myth of progress. We tell ourselves that the gods left because we no longer need them. We have moved on. We are more conscious, more evolved. It was time to stand on our own 2 feet, to take responsibility for our own lives, to make rational decisions instead of depending on some ancient, primitive divinity. This is the great illusion we have built to protect us from a devastating truth. As Jung saw, and as the earliest Greek thinkers understood with terrifying clarity, humanity has made no fundamental progress at all. The problems we face now are the same as they were 2,000 years ago. We are just as lost, just as unprepared. We have more gadgets in our hands, more theories in our heads, but in terms of consciousness, of conscience, of hypocrisy and brutality, we are just the same. All our proud ideas about evolution are simply our best excuse for running from the reality of ourselves. We are no better. In fact, we are far worse, because we no longer even remember what it is we lost. We have become so comfortable in our self-imposed prison that we have mistaken its walls for the horizon. We have domesticated the sacred so effectively that we now believe our gilded cages are the kingdom of heaven. This is the terminal stage of our sickness, a collective amnesia where the very memory of health has been erased. So, what is the path back? What is the true therapy? The real Therapeia? It is not found in another workshop, another technique, another book that promises to make you whole. The path back is the path down, into the very source of the sickness. It begins with a horrifying recognition that the divine is not here to serve us. It is suffering. It is suffering from our neglect, from our arrogance, from the relentless violence of our reason. This is the terrible secret at the heart of Carl Jung's work. A secret so profound that it has been almost entirely buried by the industry that bears his name. Far from wanting to put a stop to people's suffering, his real wish was to help them suffer consciously, not for themselves, but for the sake of the sacred. In a letter hidden from public view for decades, he confessed the terrifying purpose of his life. I wanted God to be alive and free from the suffering man, as put on him by loving his own reason, more than God's secret intentions. There is a mystical fool in me that proved to be stronger than all my science. This is the real work, not to fix the broken individual, but to perform the conscious, intentional act of compensating for the damage done by our collective delusion. It is to offer our own lives as a counterweight to the deadening reasonableness of the world. This is not a path of self-fulfillment. It is a path of blood and suffering, a crucifixion. It is the work of a mystical fool who understands that healing does not come from feeling better, but from taking on the burden of a world that has forgotten its purpose. The entire project of modern therapy, with its focus on the individual, its goal of personal happiness, its taming of the sacred, is a distraction from this awesome responsibility. It perpetuates the sickness by promising a cure that only addresses the symptoms. The real sickness is not your trauma, your anxiety, your depression. The real sickness is a culture that has forgotten how to serve. This is why the Grail legends which obsessed Jung are not about the personal quest of a hero. They are about the healing of a wasteland. And the land is sick because the question has been forgotten. It is the one question that undoes the entire self-centered project of the modern world. It is the question that every true therapy must ultimately ask, and that every individual must finally answer. The question is not, how can I be healed? The question is, whom does the Grail serve? Everything depends on this. The healing of the world, and your own, depends on remembering that the answer was never, and will never be, you.